The Silence of the Lambs is the movie that got me into movies. This movie is one of my favorites, and when people ask me to point them to a great film, it's always my immediate answer. Silence of the Lambs has everything that you could want in a movie. The acting is superb, and it's really easy to forget that the actors are even acting. The screenplay is amazing, with the pacing of the movie being perfect, with every scene serving a purpose. The directing is incredible, with some of the nuances like the actors staring directly into the camera, creating a really unique tone that really distinguishes this movie. Cinematography may not be something that we immediately associate with The Silence of the Lambs, but the camera work and the selection of shots are really excellent and do a great job of conveying the story. We may not be looking at something pretty, but the shots used in this movie add on to the suspense and the themes that are prevalent in this film. Speaking of themes, Silence of the Lambs is an incredibly rich movie. I've seen the movie 4 or 5 times now, and I can tell that I still haven't spotted everything. The movie has so many ideas and themes in it that go beyond the basic plot, with the movie tackling issues on identity, gender, childhood trauma, and so much more. But for the sake of this video, I want to focus on just one thing that I noticed during my most recent viewing of this film. That idea is the depiction of animals in this film and their usage as subtle symbols. This theme really shouldn't come as a surprise, since the title of the movie deals with lambs, so we know we can expect some things to do with animals. Let's start with the title first. The Silence of the Lambs is obviously referring to Clarice's trauma and the fact that she wants to save people so she can finally get her lambs to stop screaming. But let's think a little bit more about the lambs. The lamb to me represents multiple things. One being innocent, since they are cute, cuddly creatures, and because they are slaughtered on the ranch Clarice was staying at as a child, so she loses her innocence. This is the loss of innocence in a very literal sense. But another meaning, and the one that I believe is the intended interpretation, would be the parallel between the lambs and Buffalo Bill's victims. The lambs, just like the victims of Buffalo Bill, are killed, skinned, and have parts of their body worn around as clothing. The lambs, also just like the victims, scream in fear before they die. Buffalo Bill also prepares his victims to be killed, just like a farmer prepares his livestock. Buffalo Bill tells his victims to put lotion on their skins, and he lets them starve to loosen up the skin and to thaw them out. Going back to the Abrahamic tale, Buffalo Bill's victims are just lambs for slaughter, whose only purpose is to get him closer to his transformation. The idea of the title then, with the lambs being silent, is that this evil is over and the trauma that haunts Clarice can finally be solved. This is why during the final lines of this movie, Hannibal asks Clarice,
"Have the lambs stopped screaming?"
And she never answers because it's left to us, the viewers, to decide whether we think that Clarice's hunger to save those girls has been fulfilled, or if she's just in an endless cycle of needing to catch criminals and those who prey on the innocent. Also, when Catherine screams at Buffalo Bill during the lotion scene, he screams back, which can signal that his lambs are still screaming. In other words, his trauma still haunts him and predicates his actions. Another very obvious reference to animals is in Clarice Starling's name. A starling is a bird, and during the introductory sequence of this movie, we can hear birds in the background. This is also why Lecter tells Clarice,
"You fly back to school now, little starling. Fly, fly, fly."
Birds are also used as slang when talking about women, and we see pigeons present at Frederica Bimmel's house, who is Buffalo Bill's first victim. We also see birds drawn on a picture of Frederica with her dad, and there are also diamond-shaped slits in the mannequin present in her room, but also on her back, which is where her wings would be. Another more apparent example of the use of symbolism is with the butterflies and moths. Both of these animals go through metamorphosis and have their own cocoon stages. Buffalo Bill leaves moth larvae in the mouths of his victims as a calling card, but also to symbolize his own transformation. Clarice also has her own transformation as she goes from a girl whose only merit is her looks to a distinguished FBI agent who proves that looks can be deceiving. Now, I think Buffalo Bill's transformation is symbolized by a moth because he is transforming into something that comes out at night and is coming closer to the light. That light being what Buffalo Bill wants, and that's a meaningful identity. Now, I know moths aren't evil, but if we just go off our general depictions, we associate butterflies with beauty and elegance, and we think of moths as filthy bugs that are just nuisances and the evil counterpart to butterflies. So subsequently, when we think of Clarice's transformation, we think of a butterfly, since she is righteous and good, and her transformation is shown to come to fruition after she kills Buffalo Bill, and we see a hanging decoration with a butterfly spinning on it, giving the illusion that it's flying. Both Clarice and Buffalo Bill suffer from trauma, with Clarice losing her parents early on in her life and Buffalo Bill being abused as a child, but Clarice overcomes her trauma and turns her life into something good, hence why she's characterized by a butterfly. Whereas Buffalo Bill can't overcome his trauma and instead chooses to continue the abuse, which is why he's characterized by a moth. At Frederica Bimmel's house, we also see butterflies on her wallpaper and just outside her house. The death's head moth that Buffalo Bill plants in his victims is, as the name suggests, a symbol for death. But what's also interesting is that the death's head moth has been used in Bram Stoker's Dracula and Salvatore Dali's film from 1929, Un Chien Andalou, to symbolize death. Now let's get into some more subtle symbols. Hannibal Lecter is treated like an animal, and to be fair, that is what he is, a sophisticated animal. But we see that his life is bargained over and his existence is like that of a zoo animal, with him just being a prize. Hannibal tells Clarice that all he wants is a view, since he has spent years underground where he can't see anything but the walls that confine him and the occasional televangelist broadcast. This is similar to a zoo animal in the sense that many of those animals will never see daylight again, as they are stuck inside indoor enclosures and their only visitors are observers who prod them from time to time, just like with what Clarice does to Hannibal as she tries to push him for Buffalo Bill's name. We see Hannibal get a much grander cage when he's transferred to Tennessee, with meals being brought to him while he's restrained. It may seem like I'm being sympathetic towards Hannibal, but I'm really not. I'm just pointing out the symbolism, and we can't forget that even though Hannibal is a caged animal, he is still an animal. When Hannibal kills the two guards that enter his cell, he hangs up one's body as if to mock his captors and to remind them not to forget that he's an animal and what he's capable of. Also, the way that Hannibal chooses to hang up this guard is done in a way that gives the imagery of an eagle, which is a national bird and symbol for America. We can see the guard's body posed, with his arms flaring out and with the flag being draped behind him, which gives the impression of wings. But why would Lecter choose to hang up this guard as an eagle? Well, to answer that, we need to look into another theme present in The Silence of the Lambs. The movie is laced with patriotic undertones. There are subtle references to America placed throughout the film, like flags shown in the storage unit just before Clarice finds Benjamin Rasbell's head, or even the color palette in Buffalo Bill's scenes being red, white, and blue. The cake that is served at the end of the movie has the Department of Justice written on it, and it's sliced through just like with how Clarice cuts through the Department of Justice to catch Buffalo Bill on her own. Even Buffalo Bill's name is taken from a historic figure in the United States who was a soldier and then began hunting buffalo as his profession. He hunted so many buffalo that he eventually got the nickname Buffalo Bill. There are also hints in the movie that suggest that Buffalo Bill, James Gum, could have been a soldier or had the military in his lineage. When Clarice has her shootout in the basement and breaks the window shutter letting the light pool in, we can see a frame of a flag and a helmet. This could symbolize the raising of the flags at Iwo Jima, but also could serve as a possible explanation for the trauma that has caused James Gum to become who he is. But back to the question, why did Lecter hang up the guard in the shape of an eagle? Well, in the same storage unit where Clarice finds Benjamin Rasbell's head, who is another one of Buffalo Bill's victims, we also get a quick shot of an eagle statue. So Lecter poses the body of the guard as a callback to the storage unit and also to hint at James Gum's patriotic past identities. There are plenty of shots given throughout the movie that hint at the crimes taking place in this film. During the scene where we see Clarice meeting the entomologist, we see that they were playing with bugs on a chessboard. Now, the scene may just be here to emphasize how eccentric and quirky the entomologists are, but I think the scene is a bit too peculiar for there not to be a deeper meaning. If I were to analyze and have to decipher something out of it, my best guess would be that the chessboard represents order and the beetles represent nature, but sometimes nature and order clash. That's why when Clarice asks during the scene,
"The beetle moves one of your men, does that still count?"
and the entomologist responds by saying,
Of course it counts. How do you play?
This symbolizes how when a beetle or a person breaks into someone else's square on this chessboard and moves them, the game still goes on. Even when nature and people break order, life still goes on. I may be looking too far into it, but this is just my idea of the scene. What's also cool is that just before Clarice looks into this chess game, we see dinosaur fossils behind her, which undoubtedly are there to remind us of Buffalo Bill's victims and how their bodies are the same as these fossils. Skinless piles of bones, and the shot reminds us that the clock is running out, and there isn't much time until Buffalo Bill releases that next skeleton. Buffalo Bill is also characterized by a cat, and in this case, a cat killing birds. We see Buffalo Bill hunting at night and wearing night vision goggles, similar to what cats do. Buffalo Bill watches Catherine Martin like a cat does when it's hunting birds. Also, when Catherine Martin is taken away, we see her cat looking out at her and watching as well. We also see a cat figurine just by Frederica Bimmel's ballerina box that has her dicey photos in it and that Buffalo Bill was a part of. Recall what I said earlier about the women in this movie being characterized by birds. This makes Buffalo Bill the cat that's hunting them, since we know that even tamed house cats will go hunting after birds from time to time. Now for my final example of symbolism pertaining to animals within this movie, I'm going to draw our attention to Precious, Buffalo Bill's dog. If you remember, Catherine Martin is able to get a hold of Precious and then bargain with Buffalo Bill. This buys her enough time to then have Clarice come at the perfect moment to save her. Therefore, Precious indirectly saves Catherine, and after she is rescued, Catherine decides to keep the dog. We're also shown Catherine's childhood pictures with another dog, which seems to foreshadow this. Symbolically, the dog is the enemy of the cat in this case being Buffalo Bill, and since the dog saves the cat from getting its prize, which is Catherine, it is against the cat. Now this may be a stretch, but I also think that Precious symbolizes how Buffalo Bill wants his victims and his bodysuit that he's sewing to be perfect. In the book that this movie is based upon, Buffalo Bill wants a perfect suit for his body that has no wrinkles, marks, or blemishes, but the problem is that every time he puts a suit on, he wrinkles it and stresses it in different areas. This makes his idea of a bodysuit unattainable, since he will never get a perfect suit and he will keep on killing girls. But Precious is the embodiment of that perfection, since her species has literally been groomed and bred to resemble perfection for their human owners. Buffalo Bill wants to reach that level of perfection too. But as I said before, this might just be a stretch. Either way, I think Precious is there in the movie to show the contrast in Buffalo Bill's character and how parts of his humanity are still there. These are just my ideas and takeaways from this masterpiece of a movie, and keep in mind this is just one aspect of this film. There are plenty of other themes and ideas prevalent within The Silence of the Lambs that I didn't talk about. This is without a doubt an all-time great film, and the perfect representation of having motifs in film. I'm assuming that you've already seen this film, but I would suggest that you watch it again. I know I will because it's truly a cinematic marvel, and it shows us how great movies can be. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any thoughts over The Silence of the Lambs, please let me know in the comments below. Also, these videos take quite some time from the scripting to the editing to the recording, so all of your support is really appreciated and it really means a lot to me. If you made it this far, I just want to say thank you one last time, and I genuinely hope that you all have a great rest of your day.